Hey everyone, it is Mona here, Craft Klatch. It's Friday, that means it's another Coaster Friday, and today we're going to do a fairy coaster. Remember to stick around to the end, and I'm going to pick next week's coaster idea out of the fishbowl. Okay, I had picked a fairy coaster as the idea out of the fishbowl last week, and I started to do one, and I don't love it, only because I was trying something a little bit different, where I took transparency pieces and instead of cutting the whole way around, I cut it into smaller pieces, and you can definitely see the line of the transparency film, at least so far while it's in the mold. Now that might be different if I had a solid background, but the way I have it right now, it's definitely showing. So I thought I would take a different approach, and in the fishbowl there was also a fairy coaster idea that wanted like a nighttime fairy coaster, so I thought I'd combine the two. And I have mixed 2 ounces of the Easy Cast resin, and I'm going to use glitter. I'm going to use chunky black glitter, very fine dark blue glitter, and some chunky silver glitter. This is going to kind of give me a sparkly background for the fairy, and hopefully it'll be dark enough to give it that nighttime feel. Alright, so I have it all mixed, and I'm going to pour it right in there. So this is going to be a little bit of a thicker coaster. So I'm going to take my lighter, pop the bubbles, and then I'll come back after 12 hours and I will work on the next part. So I yanked out the other one, which actually didn't turn out as bad as I thought it would. Let me put something white behind it so you can see. I'm not sure if you can see where the end of the transparency is, where they overlap. I can see it in person, but it's not nearly as noticeable as I thought it would be. So that's all good. So that's the one, so you can certainly do it that way, but you might want to just trim a little bit closer to the edge of the image, and maybe you wouldn't have that issue. What I did is I put the same two characters on one piece of transparency film. And what I'm toying with is either just putting it on just like this, and then you can kind of see through it, and it gives it a little bit of an ethereal look to it, and fairies and stuff are supposed to kind of be that way, and maybe make it look kind of magical. But what I think I'm going to do for this one is actually take a little bit of acrylic paint and paint the edge like where her skin is, and maybe where the little guy's head is, just so that they're not see-through. Let it dry, and then I'll put it in. But the wings and everything else will still be sort of see-through. So I have just a little bit of white acrylic paint, and I'm going to paint this on the back side just where her body is and her face, and we'll see if that works. It just needs to be a thin coat just so she's not quite as transparent when I put her up against that glitter background. But I'm going to leave her dress and her wings and everything. Well, maybe not her dress even. I'll do her dress too. So the paint has dried on the back side, and it makes it nice and clear. What it does do, it almost makes them look like they glow in the dark. So I'm not sure if I should have hit the other stuff or not, but this is a good experiment for us, and we'll see, because now you can see the other stuff kind of fades in the background, which is kind of cool. So I have 1 ounce of resin that I'm tossing in here, and now after a minute or two I will take my lighter and run it across the surface, pop those bubbles. Now I'm going to take the image and slide it in as I do whenever I do this. Press it down and press down so all the bubbles get released from underneath. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a lot of blending into the background of this stuff now. You can see his head, you can't barely see the little guy's body. So maybe I should have painted the back of all of those. You can let me know what you think, and we'll see what it looks like when it's all finished. But I think we've kind of lost him. He's just a floating head. Okay, so once you're confident that you got those bubbles out from underneath, you can take your lighter and pop those bubbles again, because those have now risen to the surface. Alright, I'm going to let this cure for a minimum of 12 hours before I unmold it. Alright, here is our fairy coaster. I'm going to bring it up nice and close. So you can barely see the wings, and the little guy kind of lose his body almost all together in there, which is kind of neat and kind of weird. But an easy way to fix that next time is just to paint on the back side like I did on her body and his head, because they showed up really nicely. I do like the background, how it looks like they're kind of floating with the stars. So not a complete success, but not a complete failure either. So be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below, and stick around for me to pick next week's coaster. So here we are again on Friday, and it's time to pick from the fishbowl. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to empty it at the end of every week and then fill it up with new stuff. So if there's something that I haven't picked that you want to see, keep putting it back in every week. Otherwise, we're going to start overflowing here pretty quick. I picked Laura Lee Casey, a mosaic coaster. So if there's a coaster that you want to see me do, be sure to put it in the comments on the most recent coaster video, because that's where I pull it from to put it in. If you put it on an old one, it won't make it into the fishbowl. I always do it from the very most current coaster video. So be sure to do that in the comments below. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, happy crafting and stay safe.